Thank you so much for making time for us tonight.
Thank you.
I asked you before because it's almost unthinkable that we could come to this, even after the handshake.
Yes.
That was supposed to end this divisive politics in Kenya. But here we are. This is our country. We still have to love it. And you've heard what they said. Yeah. The people who were talking to their MPs and responding to what you talked about. First, why gross misconduct? Or what gross misconduct are you talking about? Why exactly do you want to impeach the Deputy President?
No, let me tell you, I think that a lot of people didn't hear me well. And you've got to look at the context under which these discussions has emerged.
Yeah.
You know, right at the beginning, there was a talk about lifestyle audit.
Yes.
As a way of, you know, challenging the enrichment of any public officer at a time when the president said, you know, even him and his deputy
are ready for it.
Are ready for it. There has also been talk about resignation. In fact, the same day I made my statement, there was a group of MPs who talked about resignation. Now, what I was talking about was to give people an alternative process. That where you can talk about resignation, you can talk about lifestyle audit, and yet there was another tool which is in the Constitution. And I was not saying it on the basis that I have a motion already in place. I was saying it that we have a lot of tools which this Constitution gives to us.
To do what?
And you know, to impeach.
Who?
To impeach the president, to impeach the deputy president. And this time I was talking in the context of the deputy president.
Okay.
Because a lot of issues have been brought around him.
What issues? That's the question. What exactly?
Well, there's
but even before you say that, when you talk about when you talk about issues about resigning, issues about lifestyle audit, I've not heard the deputy president saying he wants to resign. Lifestyle audit, the president talked about. He didn't talk about the deputy president per se. He said everybody in government. He actually apologized for
No, if you remember,
there's no legal framework.
If you remember that clip very well, he was in Mombasa.
Yes.
The president was standing between him and Governor Joe. Yes. And he said, including my friend here.
Yeah. Yes. It starts with me.
Yeah.
Including who you. That's actually what he said.
Yes.
So, what do you mean? What do you mean? What does that have to do with the deputy president? And then now you're coming to say, and I'll quote what you said over the weekend. It said, the deputy president can be removed for gross misconduct. The threshold for the removal of the deputy president on constitutional grounds is much lower than going through a criminal trial or criminal prosecution. So why the deputy president?
And deputy president does not necessarily mean Ruto in the context of the Constitution. Is that the people are so scared in this nation, people can't believe that these tools exist in the Constitution.
Okay.
This was a debate, and in the context of the old Constitution, you know, there was another mechanism which was there under the old Constitution, which was available and which was rarely used during that time.
In the current context, the deputy president is William Ruto.
Is William Ruto.
So why him? That's my question.
Why him? Because, you know, there have been a lot of stories about him.
Is there any specific thing you can point against him? That is what you've been asked today.
Like in subordination. You know, the president has talked about, you know, dealing with corruption, that he's put agencies in place to deal with corruption, given them a full mandate. And the deputy president is talking about those particular institutions conducting what, in his view, is not the proper administration of criminal justice.
And do you think that is enough? That is enough to impeach him?
It is enough. It is enough. Look at what is happening to Theresa May. Just because he cannot lead successfully the question of Brexit, you know, there was a motion of no confidence against her.
Okay, there's still a lot more questions for the Siaya Senator, also the Senate Minority Leader, including this, and I'll still revisit all that you've told me right now.
Yes.
Is it Raila's plan? That's what they said. Is what you're doing, does it have the blessing of Raila Odinga? Is it Raila's speaking?
Yes.
You'll respond to this
I'll respond to it
later on.
Yes.
Senator James Orengo with us. A situation akin to a political hostage crisis is active within the governing Jubilee Party. President Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy President William Ruto, and ODM leader Raila Odinga are seemingly holed up in a smoky enclosure, the atmosphere heavy with a stench of political gunpowder. The irony of a handshake that arguably delivered national serenity, but endless turmoil in ruling party circles. But is ODM weaponizing the handshake, and specifically against Deputy President William Ruto? Siaya Senator, the minority leader in the Senate, a seasoned politician, and an Odinga insider, is talking impeachment against Deputy President William Ruto. James Orengo, again, as we said, is our guest tonight. Thanks again for making time for us tonight. Keep talking to us, 22422. On Twitter, use the hashtag NEWSNIGHT. And I have a lot of feedback for you, more or less the things I was asking you earlier today. Senator Herman Kamariki on Twitter says, Senator Orengo is one of the best lawyers in Kenya. I believe he has all the reasons to bring the debate of impeachment. Kindly ask him to table at least 3 misconducts he is talking about. Stephen Namasaka says, does insubordination alone warrant the removal of the deputy president from office, or you have other hidden cards in your pocket? Right? Siaya Senator Bing Charlie says, Siaya Senator James Orengo taking the bull by the horns, and so on. So many texts. Sam Arab Matoni, who's saying to Orengo, why do you want to DP to impeach? Orengo answers, because the DP has been mentioned in many stories. The impeachment motion, he says, is dead on arrival. Right. I don't know what you have to say about that.
Now,
and again, it's like what I had asked you before.
I think a lot of people are commenting on this issue negatively as so fragile. I think we're living at a time when people lack a sense of stability and confidence. I mean, these things have happened before. We had a motion of no confidence against President Moi. He was there in the House when that motion was being moved. Now, the Deputy President is still sitting at his office in Harambee Annex. And until a motion is prepared in the manner which is set out in the Constitution, supported by the requisite number of members, and passed by the National Assembly and taken to the Senate, you know, no impeachment decision would have been made. So these are early times, and it is good for us to have this conversation. Now, I'm saying people are so fragile. You know, if you're in South Africa, people talk about removal of a president, leave alone a deputy president. In the United States, they're talking about impeachment of President Trump. And here people are so fragile, and we have a transformative constitution that gives the people, the sovereign, power, you know, to remove their leaders. Even in the judiciary, you know, there are a lot of petitions against Maraga, the Chief Justice, and other judges of the Supreme Court. There have been attempts to remove governors, some successfully, some not unsuccessfully. Okay. So I think this is a constitution where which is transformative, and we must have this debate and this discussion. Okay. Now, it reminds me, even when we were talking about the question of taking the oath, as it were, you know, people were talking the language of treason. They had never gone to the law books, to the penal code to determine what is treason. And now you can see in Venezuela, our template is being used by people in Venezuela. Okay. So for us to mature as a democracy, we should have a discussion about impeachment. Okay. And when issues are brought against the deputy president on impeachable offenses, then let us have that.
That's
debate.
The question.
Yes.
Which are these impeachable offenses?
Yes.
That is what people want to know.
Yes.
I mean, you're right. I mean, this is provided for in the Constitution. You're within your rights. It's just that why? Yeah.
You know,
what is the reason?
An impeachable offense under the Constitution is not like an offense under the Penal Code, which is defined. All it talks about is gross misconduct. It is not defined. Okay. Yeah.
So what is this gross misconduct then?
The gross misconduct is just like I was telling you. Insubordination. In as far as the word corruption is concerned? Undermining the authority of institutions, established institutions. There's been a direct accusation against the Director of Public Prosecution.
Director of Criminal Investigation.
Yeah, about weaponizing the criminal justice system.
You don't think he has a right?
That is as serious.
You don't think he has a right to express his opinion about that? But he feels.
But he is in the government.
If he feels they're not, he's in the government. Yes.
He is in the government.
So you don't think he should say
anything? And that
anything?
war against corruption has not been announced by the Director of Public Prosecutions. It's the president who went to the country with his principal assistant, and they say they are going to wage this war against corruption, and using the institutions in place. And by the way, you know, because they were not comfortable with the people who are heading those institutions, you know, the other guys were removed, and we have new people occupying this.
Who are not comfortable?
I mean, there was a time when, I mean, the current people who are against this war against
You're talking about the deputy president.
I mean, including the deputy president.
He's not comfortable with the people.
Yes, he's not. He has said as much.
He has said he's not happy with how it is being done.
Yes.
And he has said war on corruption should be based on facts.
Yes.
Either way, Honorable Orengo, are we saying tonight, you're saying this is early days,
yes,
but you're the one who's brought this up, nobody else.
Yes.
Are you saying tonight it is about insubordination and it's about his remarks in as far as DCI and corruption is concerned? That is it.
And it's about corruption.
What about corruption?
I mean, the list is very long. The list is very long. You must be living in another country.
I live in...
Yes. The list is too long.
Okay. When you talk about the list, you're talking about what he has been linked to. Is that what you're saying?
Not just linked to. What he has admitted also.
As, for example?
The hotel next to the airport, the Muteshi land, and now on the question of these two dams, where there's been an allegation, which is supported by facts, that 21 billion shillings was lost, and in his knowledge is talking about 7 billion shillings. You know, that is a matter that requires explanation.
But does that say he's culpable?
Is culpable not for
he's not even being investigated.
No, he's not being investigated because I think we are not yet prepared to deal with grand corruption. You're saying he should be investigated. That's what you're saying. I think he should be investigated.
Okay.
But I'm saying if he cannot be investigated, then the parliamentary process is another tool. And in the parliamentary process, by the way, it is largely a political process. Is like a motion of no confidence in a parliamentary system.
Okay.
In a presidential system, removal is not defined in the same terms as it is defined in the United States Constitution. And remember, in impeachment in the United States is presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Here, it is just an ordinary speaker, and that speaker need not be a lawyer. Like in the Senate, the speaker we have is not a lawyer.
Still, the assumption is that
it is a political process.
Still, assumption.
Yes.
The assumption is that they are honourable members of Parliament or Senate,
yes, and
this should be based, or there should be, I mean,
like
strong basis for this. But my question,
in America, they say a finding on grounds of impeachment, it depends on the numbers of senators who are voting on an impeachment motion. It doesn't really depend on the niceties of the law. It's a political process for accountability and a mechanism, like there's a mechanism for recall of members of parliament.
Right.
Is also a mechanism.
But it should be based on something, isn't it?
It is based on something.
It should be based on something.
Which I've given you.
And that was my question.
I've given you a litany.
Right. My question to that litany you're talking about. For example, the Adrian Muteshi land, you're talking about the Western land. He has said that he was an innocent buyer in both. Okay. You've talked about the dam scandal and him saying, and of course Kenyans were concerned as to why the deputy president should talk about 7 billion shillings, and he gave his reasons to it. But my question is, and can you point to anything that says the deputy president is liable for A, B, C, D, and that is why he should be impeached in as far as corruption is concerned? There
are several. And, you want me to continue giving that list? I started with the question of insubordination, the undermining of the authority of institutions, constitutional institutions which are established under the government. 3, issues of corruption. And you want us to go back, you remember the Hustler jet? You remember what came out of it? And a lot of audit queries, including Amaco. We can go on and on and on. And if you wanted to bring the entire dossier.
Nothing has ever been proven, or no judgment has ever been passed that he has done ABCD.
But the impeachment, you don't need it to carry a judgment.
So you'll use all this, that's what you're saying?
It is placed before. When I move a motion on no confidence of the President of the Republic of Kenya, Moi at the time, far more powerful figure. I did not go through the litany of proof as required. And I said it during that, debate we had in Uganda. I said the threshold for removal is not the same threshold that is applicable in a constitutional trial or in a criminal court. This is a judgment of your peers, legislators who are not undertaking a criminal process or a hearing or a trial as understood in a court of law.
So whether it can really be proven ultimately or not, it doesn't really matter.
There must
if
be
allegations carry the day in the Senate, it's fine.
There must be a basis.
Okay.
There must be a basis.
Is it, I'll leave that as that. Of course, Kenyans will judge, but that question has been asked several times. It's all over on 22422 on Twitter. Is it you speaking? And the MPs talked about it. Is it Raila Odinga speaking?
It is me speaking. It is me speaking.
But Orengo is just not anybody. He's the Senate minority leader.
Raila has got his mouth. I got my mouth.
Yeah.
When I'm speaking on behalf of Raila Odinga, which I've done before, I'll say as much.
Does Odinga share these sentiments?
Well, I don't know whether he shares. And particularly knowing, you know, when I was saying these things, I was saying them as James Orengo. It was supported by quite a number of members of parliament who were there, some of them who are not necessarily members of ODM, but they are members of NASA. But these were my views, and I can tell you when I was moving the motion of no confidence in President Moi, it was my motion. It was my motion. And I was able, you know, to mobilize support for it, although we didn't meet.
This is you? You're saying this is not ODM?
Yeah.
But you're not just any other member in ODM.
Yes.
You're the Senate minority leader. You're a seasoned politician in ODM. You're close to Raila Odinga. Everybody knows that. You're a key figure in ODM. And you're saying this is just you? You didn't care to...
These were my views. These were my views. And I was talking about what is contained in Article 150. Can a deputy president be impeached? And the answer is yes.
They have said as much. I mean, the MPs were speaking today. This is ODM weaponizing the handshake to fighting Deputy President William Ruto, and 2022 being the main objective. I don't know what
when have they not said that? This is not a new story. Every time anything emerges, they say this is about 2022. The only people who talk about 2022 really, in terms of who is going to be president, belonged to the camp of Tanga Tanga. You don't find, you know, people around President Uhuru talking about 2022. And
you have, though.
I have again, giving my personal views many times. Okay. And the record is very clear.
Right. You have given your personal views at a time when everybody in the handshake, and we had the deputy president, the president and ODM leader Raila Odinga saying and warning several times that people should not talk about 2022.
Yes.
You've been doing it.
Yeah,
you've actually said it before that Raila Odinga should vie for presidency in 2022.
Yes, and I've said it because those are my views. And coming from the movement that I've grown
You've been stopped from saying it, that's
No, I've not been stopped. I keep on saying it. I'll say it. And you know, there are times even the party has said, what I've said is not the official party position. But I said, yes, it's not an official party position, but I'll say it because those are my views.
Right, so this is in defiance of...
We are coming from a tradition which is transformative, which is revolutionary, and in which we want the progressive movement in this country to assume the highest office in the land. Because so far, I think the progressive movement has been compromised. All these changes that we have had, ending into elections, you know, the movement has been hijacked, or the objectives of the movement have been hijacked. You know, we had people fighting to bring these changes. But every time change comes, people ride on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, you're talking about 2022. That is in defiance of what your party leader has said, isn't it?
No,
he has said as much in castigating the Tanga Tanga team, not to talk about 2022, and the president has talked about it. But you've gone ahead to say it in clear defiance of what?
No, it's not defiance. If I understand and I know the word defiance, you know, because it doesn't extend to to me in respect of giving my opinion.
So do you think they should be angry then with Tanga Tanga movement on talking about 2022?
They should be angry, particularly the people in Jubilee should be angry because we have a president who wants to establish a legacy, who has got a program, and the more you talk about 2022, you are undermining not only his authority, but turning him to a lame duck president.
That applies to you as well, isn't it?
No, to me.
It doesn't apply to you?
It doesn't apply
to
me.
Why? You're part of the handshake.
We are a different movement. We have a very different movement.
But part of the handshake.
We are not in government, we are not in State House. And the political party called ODM is established to pursue the objectives contained in the constitution of the party, which is to win a majority of seats in parliament and to win the president.
All right.
Ultimately.
There's no doubt that the handshake is a watershed moment in Kenya's politics.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
And we've seen how Raila Odinga is close to the President Uhuru Kenyatta. Of course, you're close to both of them, in my assumption, even after the handshake. Is this impeachment motion you want to bring against the deputy president, is it also an indictment on the president?
It's not
that he can condone a deputy who's as bad as you say, who deserves to be out, and he's doing nothing about it? Last we saw they had lunch together today.
You know, you got to look at what has happened in many other jurisdictions. I mean, what happened to Zuma when he was kicked out of government? There was a president called Mbeki at that time. You know, what happened to Spiro Agnew during, he was the vice president of Nixon. Nixon let him to fry, although some of the accusations, one would say, would have touched on President Nixon. Now, the president, if you look at the powers of the president, is a head of state and head of government. There are certain things he can do, and there are other things which he can do directly. When Moi wanted his vice president kicked out, Mr. Karanja, he used a political process to force that man out. But he didn't himself go to the platform and say, I want you fired, or you must resign, or you must quit office. I don't think that's how the president should behave, in my view. But a political process can be used to attain the same objectives. And that's why those tools are available in the Constitution.
Back to my question. Yes. I mean, you've answered well, but still, with due respect to all that you're saying, this is a handshake. And the handshake, publicly, from what we've heard, is between the president and the ODM leader, supported by the deputy president as well. You're talking about impeaching the deputy president. And the president is there. The president is not talking anything about it. Raila Odinga is not saying anything about it.
The president is taking half his cabinet to Karura Forest to make statements. He sits with them in the cabinet. Even today, there were some who went there. I mean, what is good for the gander is good for the goose. I mean, ultimately, we don't know whether Ruto, like other cabinet ministers like him, is going to end up in Karura Forest. Yeah. So the president has pronounced himself on this question, whether you are my brother, my sister, or my closest political ally. I don't think he should be any louder. But the fact of the matter that his commitment to the fight against corruption has been exemplified by what he has tried to do in the last 2 or 3 months. Now, for me, being a member of the Senate and being in the opposition, I must use all the tools which are available. I cannot sit clapping my hands every day.
Okay, let me ask this question another way then.
Yeah.
You think the president should take action against the deputy president?
Well, action can be taken.
Do you think he should do it?
I think he should do it. I think he should do it. And
you can access him now after the handshake.
I think he should do it, but he has to take into consideration a lot of variables. What goes on his table is not purely, the question of the removal, but the consequences of that removal.
Okay. Yeah. Both he and, of course, your party leader have asked all those with evidence to submit it to DCI headquarters.
Yes.
Your mention of Karura Forest.
Yes.
People like you.
Yes.
That is what they want you to do.
Yes.
You're not doing that.
Why would I do that when I have a tool? I have a different tool, which is impeachment. When the time comes, if I make that decision, it's a tool I have.
So you haven't
and I've used it before. I mean, let's not talk as if
the decision is made.
Impeachment is a big deal. I mean, I've done it before to a more powerful president, Moi.
This is not a big deal to you.
Yeah, it's not a big deal to me, so long as there's evidence.
I'm sure you must have evidence when you say that.
Yes.
But you're saying so long as there's evidence, meaning you're not sure.
And then the processes which are set out in Article 150 of the Constitution.
Of course, and we have them, and we'll run them for.
I've complied with.
Right, and do you think with those processes you're going to still make it? The numbers in the Senate?
When the decision is made,
impeach him.
Yeah, when the decision is made.
Are you going to impeach him? Let me just ask that.
When I make that decision, I'll not look back. But what I said in the rally that was held in Ugenya, what I said is that it is possible to impeach a president, a deputy president, as an alternative mechanism, because people are talking about resignation and all that. And I said, there is another way.
All right, Honorable Orengo, there's still a lot of feedback, and I'll read all this feedback to you shortly. Somebody here is asking, let's talk about Raila. Is he running for president 2022? You said that is your opinion. You think Raila Odinga should go for the presidency?
Yes. But
has he told you, or is he planning to still run for the presidency?
Yeah, he has not told me, but that's my opinion.
There's something you said last week, or I think 2 weeks ago, in an interview, that landed you in problems. Of course, you said that you were misquoted, but you said it, and actually your party went ahead to come and dismiss it. When you said that the contestation for power is going to come from a formation within ODM, the contestation for power is going to come from a formation within ODM, in it, and formation of Jubilee, where Uhuru Kenyatta is playing a role. Okay, you went ahead to say it is not in doubt that as a party we will participate in the 2022 election. That's for a fact. As to who we will work with, we still do not know. It's premature for anybody to purport to be speaking for ODM with regard to any arrangement with any party. This was in the context of the handshake.
And that last statement, it is too early to talk about who we are going to work with as ODM. But now people give premium to the previous statement that you're talking about, that a formation may emerge. I was looking into the political scene, that it is possible that a formation within both parties, formations within both parties may emerge and go for power.
And this is why you've had some and your critics, and especially people close to the deputy president, saying the handshake is hypocrisy, it's hypocritical, and it's about locking him out of 2022. And from your remarks, some interpreted that to mean that is exactly what is happening.
How can he be locked out when he was in the ODM formation, and from within it he broke away and went and formed another party and was in a different formation? I mean, he did it. It's a fact, he did it.
No doubt about that.
And it is possible. It's possible. And as you see him campaigning, he's talking to other people.
It's just that the handshake has been built to be about uniting Kenya and not about politics and not about 2022.
Well, if you talk about...
But your remarks were interpreted to mean it's about 2022, and the formation will come from this handshake, politically.
Yes.
So that will come.
And what is wrong with that? If you want to have a country together. I mean, the current coalition government emerged under similar circumstances, where, the two adversaries were made to work together.
So again, you're confirming this.
And in 2022, we don't know what kind of formations are going to emerge. Even Muradi talked about it about 3 months ago. That there was
many asking where this has anything to do with Muradi.
And he put so many things. He threw a lot of things on the table.
Some to you.
Well,
some to you when he asked you, Jim, you'll also help us on this, and some asking whether this has anything to do with all that.
No. Muradi has been very quiet, and I think we better leave him where he is.
Honorable Orengo, you're confirming again that the handshake could actually come up with a political formation. That's what you're telling us.
No, I'm not saying it will come with a political formation, but I'm saying it is a possibility.
Okay.
Yes.
Still a lot to talk about with the CIS senator. Keep texting us, 22422 on Twitter. Use the hashtag NEWSNIGHT. We have some feedback to look at. A sample, right? We'll start with Twitter. Okay, we have Onyango Nuhu Hussein. I'm a staunch ODM supporter, but in this, I think Senator is fighting an unnecessary war. Just keep quiet and let Jubilee politicians fight themselves. He's instead giving them reasons to continue calling Raila Odinga names. Okay. And then we have Ben Kisembe. It's hard to crack the issues at stake raised by Honorable Orengo. Won't hold any water to warrant the DPs also through the legislative provisions. Still on Twitter, we have Kibet Kigen. It's time the opposition come clean and kick out the corrupt fellows in their own yard. They want to make us think that they are clean, that none of them are corrupt. The war against the DP is just part of a political war. Okay, still on Twitter, Linus sang, impeaching the deputy president is not as easy as the whipping minority leaders. The motion will not see the light of the day. Orengo James and ODM are biting more than they can chew. Again, talk to us. 22422, Twitter is the hashtag NEWSNIGHT. There's one more here that I picked out. This is from one of your members, NRM initially, that is Dr. Miguna. He said if Orengo intends to bring an impeachment motion, he must do so against the two individuals occupying the presidency, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. In a presidential system, Ruto is merely an appendage of Uhuru Kenyatta. He deputizes Uhuru on everything, including corruption. That's what he says. As you respond to that, the question that has been asked before is, during the campaign, you castigated both the president and the deputy in as far as corruption is concerned. So when did it turn out to just be about the deputy president? Well, and as you respond, of course.
Yeah, first of all, Miguna, that is his opinion. And he's talking out there in Canada. I think it's about time he comes back and, do what he thinks I should have done instead of being...
You've heard what he's saying.
Yes,
and there are court orders that have been ignored.
No. I mean, there are a lot of people who have been locked out of this country, but they managed to come back, including people like Koigi Wamwere. They made their way back. I think if he really wanted to come into the country, he would still manage to come into the country. But that apart,
that apart. But I remember hosting you here, I think a year ago.
Yes.
When you actually told me that bringing back Miguna is one of the issues that were pegged on the handshake. You told me that yourself.
Yes.
So what changed? Now that you're saying you should find his way back.
What changed is that there's internal processes which are going on. I mean, there are a lot of issues, and I think I'll be jeopardizing what is going on a lot of issues which were raised, and it was not just about...
That are still ongoing.
Yeah, that are being addressed. I am aware they are being addressed. But I think, they are better left to be resolved methodically and in a manner that, will comply with the law. So everybody should rest assured that, this is not just... a political process to either end up with a referendum. But I think in accordance with the memorandum, there were some outstanding issues which were raised that I think are being addressed.
So back to the other question, why is it now you're the deputy president's case only? Before you talk about deputy president and the Jubilee administration.
I am on the deputy president's case only because the president made a decision. There was a time even when I said very, very, very firmly and very strongly that, this may be just another season of anti-corruption war. And I related how many seasons I've seen before in other governments. Yeah, but when it was seen that the president was taking measures, including, the agencies that are tasked, with matters corruption, that changes were taking place, and with a new drive, new energy, and the statements he has made, I'm persuaded, that he's committed to this war against corruption. He has no... second thoughts. But when it comes to the deputy president, even after that war on corruption had been launched by the president and the government as a whole, you open newspapers every other day, and the stories you read about the deputy president is as if that war is not being fought.
And of course, he keeps saying that he's also being fought unfairly by the media and so many other
and that is for you
factions.
To explain. This time around is not for you to explain. But I don't think the media
ultimately
would wage a war against the deputy president without a basis.
Ultimately, he keeps saying those allegations. But be that as it may, I mean, you've also had this issue about, and from it, actually what you're seeing in the Jubilee Party, are you seeing discord in the Jubilee Party? Are you seeing it almost breaking, and some actually blaming you as ODM, blaming Raila Odinga, blaming the handshake for dividing the Jubilee Party? What do you see? What do you think?
No. We have nothing to do with what is happening inside Jubilee.
You can clearly see there are two factions.
No, there are two factions in Jubilee.
Yeah.
But there's no faction of ODM in Jubilee. The people in Jubilee are the same.
These factions are being seen after you came into an agreement. The handshake.
Yes. But in that handshake, there was no rearrangement of government. People who are ministers are still ministers.
Right.
People who are deputy presidents are still deputy president. And the ODM leader is still sitting in the same office he has been sitting for the last 2-3 years. and more. So really, I think Jubilee has to deal with that problem. Is almost turning into a civil war within the party. But I can say, as somebody who fought for the second liberation and now a new constitutional dispensation, that we need a strong Jubilee to make Kenya better, just like we need a strong ODM as a party, because I think it is a big party. So Jubilee breaking may not be good for our democracy.
Do you think it still plays a role it should be playing in as far as the opposition is concerned? You're a seasoned politician. You know about the opposition.
You know the problem.
I mean, some are talking about the opposition being dead. I mean, for example, right now in the area of the handshake, how do you hold the government accountable?
We hold the government accountable. First of all, the system of government has changed, because institutions of parliament are supposed to oversight as an institution. So that is not a role necessarily with the opposition. But I think when one looks at the debates that are going on, our language has not changed. Only changed to the extent of, giving support in terms of the objectives of the handshake.
One more question, not the only one, of course. I have still a lot more I wanted to ask you, but there's feedback here about corruption, and people talking about double standards. One here, Gashoki on Twitter, says the same Orengo, lead lawyer in the ongoing corruption case against Deputy CJ Philomena Mwilu, and represented Busia Governor Sospita Ojamong in a corruption case. So defender of those accused of graft. The dishonesty of ODM is cancerous. Jubilee Party will not recover from this handshake. Some have actually even talked about what is happening in counties and why you're not using the same vigor as you're using with the Deputy President as far as corruption is concerned, or allegations of corruption are concerned, including Seah County, where you come from.
No, Seah County, there are a lot of issues which have been raised, but they have been resolved largely, because I know the Anti-Corruption Commission was investigating some matters in Seah County. Now, you need to ask the Commission what turned out, but I think they were resolved, and therefore I cannot pursue it without a basis, because those were reports by the Comptroller and Auditor General, and also the findings of the Anti-Corruption Commission. But I cannot say that other things may not emerge, because I understand even as we speak, there may be investigations going on. But on this question of these cases, I mean,
because these are also corruption allegations, isn't it?
Yeah, the corruption allegations. But in fact, let me tell you, if I was to take every case that comes to my office, I would not even have time to do anything else. I'm very selective about the cases that I take, and I look for incidents of abuse of power, prosecutorial power. There are times when people are being bashed around, when people are accused of offenses that when you look at a case, you find out there's a different narrative. The objectives are extraneous to criminal justice. So to the extent that I do some cases, I don't apologize, and I've been doing that all my life. And the people I've represented have included presidents of Kenya when they needed that help, when they had similar kind of cases and charges.
Publicly, however, these are corruption allegations against individuals you present, some you don't represent, isn't it?
Yes.
So how come others should be weightier as allegations?
No, I'm saying if one comes to me with a case, I can be able to look at it and say, this one, the DPP probably is wrong, or the investigating agencies did not looking at properly. There's abuse of process, or they have not looked at the record properly. So instead of leaving somebody bashed around, by the way, it was Madan in the Githunguri case who said, that the law should not be used to bash around people. And when there are incidences of abuse of power, I will be failing my duty as a trained advocate, and also as a legislator, because we are supposed to defend the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, which includes the Bill of Rights.
What next, finally, for Jubilee? For the handshake, do you think it's going to hold? Some say, you've had other quotas talking about it being hypocritical and all. Plus everything that is happening right now, where do you think Kenya is heading? The handshake and the politics around it.
I think the commitment to the handshake by President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga, I think is deep. And I think the establishment of the Building Bridges initiative, which is going around the country, is based on the fact that they do not necessarily want to impose an outcome on the people of Kenya. They want the people of this country to come out with ideas about making probably Kenya a better country. Now, that commitment, I think, is in consonance with what I've always believed, that whenever you have a new constitution, after 2 or 3 years, you normally need to do a review, undertake a review. You may find some fault lines in the constitutional arrangement. And I think there is also the question in this country that, power is what everybody's seeking. And we need to disabuse the minds of our people that going for political power does not necessarily lead us to a better country.
Okay.
And you could see sometimes even on matters corruption, what is coming from the Tinga group is that, so long as the thief is your thief, you have to defend, the thief. I don't think there's a premise upon which you can build.
All right. Of course, there's all back and forth about what they say, and who says what, and all that. But Senator James, when are you starting this impeachment motion?
I told you that it is not something that I can say is going to begin tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I am the one to do it, because it has to originate from the National Assembly. And all that.
But you'll be behind it if it's going to happen.
Oh?
You'll be behind it if it's going to happen.
Anyway. No, not necessarily. In fact, if you look at what other members of Parliament have said before, there are quite a number of them who have talked about taking out impeachment proceedings and motion.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not the first one.
Honorable James Orengo is the minority leader in the Senate, also Siaya County Senator. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight, Senator Orengo.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Keep texting us to 242. On Twitter, use the hashtag NEWSNIGHT.